Did you see the comments when I tweeted that I was going to have you on the show?
I saw some of them. Yeah, this video, it is what it is.
You got a lot of heat.
You know what? What too? I think one of the reasons that I got a lot of more heat than I used to. When me and Connor were doing the podcast before it started growing, I did a podcast with Vince, but that was on a paywall, so it never really went viral that much, everything because he's shadow banned and stuff, everything is YouTube, who knows, but when I did that, I went back to Impact and I did like the Andy Kaufman thing, the guy going to get the women's wrestling stuff, everything, all that.
Yeah,
People took me way too seriously, but I read the room in professional wrestling. Okay, these people are very easily offended. They're wrestling fans these days, right? Plus, social media is very polarizing. So, we're the old school guys. So we're in kind of like that camp. And then there's the new school, and stuff that's people choose sides. But I just embraced the women's, women's wrestling sucks. That was my thing, they can't do it as good as men. And just people when I walked out in Philly for with the old ECW arena, Joe Feeney, the guy that he was an old school ECW fan, he'd been a fan of been to that arena a million times, just ECW fans. He said it's I got the second most heat of anybody that he's ever seen in that building before. These people just hated me.
Who was ahead of you?
Who was I think the night that they Shane Douglas with the neck brace thing that he did,
sure.
that was
Yeah.
But people looked at it was very well done. It looked real, kind of, So people think that I was this guy. I hate women, misogynist, but it was so easy to do because it was as I saw how easy it was to trigger the fans, and it's I don't know, that's a skill that I don't even want to call it a skill. If you just look, you know what people get upset about. You see it on social media.
Sure.
Just embrace it.
So,
if you want to be a heel, because ultimately it got what's her name, the Tessa Blanchard over pretty good the way we did it.
So are you saying that what you're doing on the podcast is just playing a character?
Not really, but I kind of, what's the word I want to use here? We call it ribbon on the square. Okay, and in professional wrestling, where you're joking but you're half serious. Okay, you're it's a joke, but there's a good chunk of truth behind the joke, right?
Yeah.
I'd been very critical of some of the we have to review the shows.
Yep.
So you watch some of the shows, some of the matches stink, in my opinion. I used to be an agent, I used to wrestle. People criticize my work back in the day, so I'm very free to do it to what I see if that's what people want to hear, right? So just some of the women's matches I was watching, I don't want to personally attack these people, but some of the matches were terrible. And I'm it's fair to criticize the work collectively if everybody wants to be pro women's wrestling, okay, that's fine. I'm very for it because women draw good numbers. You can't deny that.
Sure.
Professional wrestling, they're it's a male audience, attractive women, they draw, the people don't really change the channel. So my whole thing was what I'm not allowed to critique a women's match the same as the men's match? That doesn't seem very fair. Well, why are they a protected group now? There's tons of them in the business. Back in the day, we had the Nitro Girls, and there weren't that many women wrestlers on the card. Remember, growing up when it was just Muda and Wendy Richter, or Mula, excuse me. And when it was just two girls, and once every 2-3 months, they would be on TV for 3 or 4 weeks and they have a match.
Yeah, and then the Divas era changed that.
The Divas era changed that, and all of a sudden, there's a considerable amount of women on the show.
Yeah.
And my whole thing was I'm watching some of these matches. I have to watch all these shows, and I'd be critical of some of the work, and people say, "Oh, you're just being a misogynist." I'm come on. It's I gotta stay true to my principles. If I think something's not good, I'll tell you when it's not good. If I like something, I will tell you I like that a lot. So it's just honest criticism.
You were very kind. That's how we connected. You were really kind. The interview I did with Dave Meltzer, you said some really nice things. And I got to be honest, when someone was like, "Did you hear what Disco and Conan said on their show about you?" I was like, good. They're like, "No, it was really good." I'm like, oh, thank you. That's nice.
Well, this is funny because I started watching. I didn't know you. Chris Van Fleet, I hadn't seen you in the business but I've been out of the business, but I knew to interview people in the business, the podcasters and stuff, the main ones. But you just kind of showed up out of nowhere on my timeline, interviewing the wrestlers. I'm oh, wow, this guy looks the part. For example, a guy like Conrad. Conrad gets tons of heat, but he's good at what he does.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yes. So I was like watching you, I was like, oh, this guy's really good at this because, I'm comparing you to the other people that do this. Like you're a good looking guy. You look like you got money, wear nice clothes.
I'll take it.
And you see a lot of these people that do these things and like, why would I listen to this person? He looks like a slob. Doesn't really care what his physical appearance looks like on the show. And it's just like,
It is amazing that like, I've interviewed a lot of wrestlers. I've also interviewed a lot of Hollywood people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how much credibility that has given me. Oh my gosh, I just saw you with Julia Roberts.
Right.
You just did something with Ethan Hawke or Steven Spielberg. And it's funny how that seems to be like changing people's perspective there.
Right. Well, they see you like with the A-listers. So it's like, well, this guy's like the real deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And they're like, so why are you bringing Disco on the show then?